Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lucy. There's a cat on my lap. He wanted to, I guess, also be in the video. What am I supposed to do, move him? So today we're doing my October wrap up featuring Tucker, who does not like me speaking. Okay, so he has now moved to be next to me instead of on top of me. So we're here now. Back to my October wrap up. This video is more on time than my September wrap up. Also, I would like to apologize if you hear the background noise of my heater, but it is so cold in Atlanta. It is 20 degrees outside today. You can't already tell, I'm not super planned out for this video, so I'm sorry if this isn't as good as my other wrap-ups, but I will do my best. I don't even know how many books I read in October. Give me a second. I read 6 books in October. If you want to skip ahead at any point in the video, I always have timestamps linked down below. And there are also links if you want to buy the books that I mention. I do get a kickback from that if you buy books through those links. Just one more piece of bookish news. I got a Kindle in the month of October, so thought I would share that. It's upside down. This is a Kindle. So yeah, my reading vlogs will be that much better because now I can do like those reading montages while reading an ebook because I film on my phone. So before, when I was reading an ebook, I couldn't do that because I was reading it on my phone. But now I can do it with the Kindle. And also, it's really good for reading at night. Nobody asked for this Kindle review, but I'm giving it. Yeah, I use it mostly at night, right before bed. Just wanted to share this. I love it. It's so cute. It's so small. It's way smaller than I thought it would be. Oh, it's the Kindle Paperwhite, the newest one. So the first book that I finished in October was Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin. This is a story that is told in 5 parts. It basically centers around this woman, Aviva Grossman, who gets caught up in a political sex scandal that was akin to the Bill Clinton Monica Lewinsky scandal that happened while Bill Clinton was in office. And it's like that, but on a smaller scale. I think maybe in the TBR that I mentioned this in, that I said that it was a retelling, but it's not. That scandal also existed in that book, in this book, but it follows how Aviva Grossman is affected and her family and the women around her. And it's told in 5 parts with each perspective from different women who are around her or are her. I really like this. I thought it was really interesting. I really enjoyed the process of reading this. Each part is kind of told in a different way. Not each part, but some of the parts. One of the parts was told in like a choose your own adventure kind of way, but that part kind of disappointed me because I thought it was going to be like an actual choose your own adventure book, but doesn't actually do that. I don't have the physical book, so I don't know how it would work in there, but I listened to it on audiobook and I also own the ebook, so I checked it in the ebook. And in the audiobook, the narrator reads out like the 2 options and then does the correct option. And then in the ebook, the correct option is just a link. So you go to that, like there's no option to use the second option, if that makes sense. So that was a little disappointing, but overall the story was good. I'm not mad at the formatting. And there was one chapter that was told in a series of emails, and that one bothered me because it was told from the perspective of a 13-year-old, which bothered me because she read a little younger than I thought she would have based on the 13-year-old we see when she's like 8, and she acts the same way when she's 8 as when she's 13. And I maybe haven't been around teenagers in a while, but I feel like there's a difference between how an 8 or 9-year-old acts than a 13-year-old acts, especially because at 8 or 9, she does seem a little more advanced. So you would think she'd be a little more advanced at 13. I don't know. It just seemed off to me. And also it was like one-way emails. We only saw the emails from that character's perspective. We never saw any response emails, which just bothered me. I wanted to see them, okay? It's like hearing one half of a phone call. Like that bothers people. My favorite point of view was Rachel's point of view. Rachel was the mom of Aviva. I need to read more books about crotchety old women. She talks about like how she went through a divorce. She doesn't talk about how she went through a divorce, but she talks about dating as an older woman, and it's really great. Like, it's so funny, and I just enjoyed it so much. Tucker, please do not eat that. As for Aviva, who is arguably the main character, as the story arguably centers around her, I appreciated how the story gives the woman's side because this happens a lot, or not a lot, or I guess more than it should, where 2 people are caught in something, but only the woman is vilified. In this scenario, it was a politician who was married. I think he had kids, and he had an affair with a 21-year-old intern. Was she an intern? Yeah, I think she was an intern who was working in his campaign office. And The politician ends up going to have a long career and she literally had to disappear. Wild, right? So I liked how it kind of gives a voice. I think Monica Lewinsky either had, like, she's on Twitter. I'm a millennial, okay? She's also done that, but I appreciated this fictionalized version and it made me want to seek out Monica Lewinsky's. I want to check that out now after reading this, and I thought it was a good story, well written, and I enjoyed it. The next book that I have to talk about is Am I There Yet? The Loop-de-Loop Zigzagging Journey to Adulthood by Maureen. If you don't already know, I love books about adulthood. I feel like I say this in every wrap-up I do because I always have at least one book to read about adulthood, and this was October's. This follows Maureen. It's kind of her memoir kind of thing, and she just talks about growing up and what that's meant to her, what it's been like for her. And I really enjoyed it. Maureen like claim to fame is like these doodles. I think she got like insta famous based on the doodles. Like she wrote like hashtag relatable things, similar to like Sarah Scribbles, I think. But this is much more memoir than like those books, if that makes sense. Like there's like essays in between all the doodles and things, if you can see that. And yeah, overall I really enjoyed this. This book has a trigger warning for paternal death. Her dad dies and she talks about how she dealt with that, what happened, like when she found out about that. Like I said, there are essays in this book that I enjoyed, but I didn't feel like Mari was all in them. Like I didn't feel like they were as honest as they could have been, which I know is kind of expecting a lot and asking a lot, but I don't know, it's just what I want to see. It just kind of, they felt surface level a lot of the time, and so they were fun to read, but not as good as I feel like they could have been. And at times it felt like they were like filler just to make the book longer because she didn't want to have a book of just doodles, which honestly would have been fine. That's what I thought this was, actually. I did really enjoy the ones where she talks about her travels and things. They inspired me to go on my own solo trip, which I haven't planned yet, but I do want to do that at some point. So if you want to travel, I think this would be a good book. If you're like me and just like to read about other people's path to adulthood or just adulthood in general, I'd recommend it. But if you're looking for something more advice-driven or deep and profound, this isn't it. Next, I read Paper Girls Volume 3, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Cliff Chang. I feel like all my reviews for these volumes are basically the same. I really like the art style. I like the idea of the plot, or it keeps me engaged even though I'm not really sure where it's going and things. Each volume kind of brings up more questions and is more confusing. I keep reading for those answers, but I did enjoy this volume. I gave it 4 stars, which I think is the highest I've rated them because this answered more of the questions that were brought up in the second 2 volumes, even though it did bring up more questions. But yeah, I really liked it. And I'm looking forward to reading Volume 4. I had it out from the library, but I accidentally let it expire, so hopefully I can get it again. The next book that I read was Not Your Villain by C.B. Lee. This is the second book in the Not Your Sidekick series. In the first book, we followed Jess, whose parents are the town's like superheroes. These books are set in the future, very far in the future, where some people were affected by, I want to say like nuclear something, and they get superpowers, and Jess's parents were some of those people, or the powers are passed down, inherited? Yes, can be inherited, and Jess's parents are some of those people who have inherited powers, and they are this town's superheroes. Jess ends up not having any powers, and so she is on the hunt for an internship, and she ends up getting an internship with the town's supervillains. And to make matters even more complex, the other person at her internship is her longtime crush, Abby, and that book is so cute and fun. I recommend it, but also don't recommend it because this book was significantly worse. I'm sorry. In this book, we follow one of Jess's friends, Bells, and he's the main character now. Bells is a trans black boy, and he's like a good character, but the book overall is not that great. This was not as good as the first one. Too many implausible things happened that really upped the camp factor of this series, but not in a good way. In the first book, it felt cute and fun, but in this book, it just felt like way too unrealistic. And yes, I know it's a book set in the future with people with superpowers, but I feel like there was an element of realism that's still expected because it does read mostly like a contemporary just set in a different time. My first issue with this book is that this book has overlap with the first book in the series. About the first third of this book is a recap of what happened in the first book from Bells' perspective, which really kind of slowed down the momentum because you finish the first book really wanting to know where things are going in the mystery that were revealed in the first book, and then you're just bogged down with listening to what happened in the first book again. And yeah, it wasn't that fun. Jess's perspective didn't really add anything to what happened in the first book, I think. You learn a few more things, but I think they could have been interwoven into continuing the plot of the series. So I really didn't like that. I am not a trans person, so I can't comment on how well the representation of that was done, but from what I've seen from other reviewers, it seems like it was done well. Personally, I appreciated how normalized his transness was, I guess. Bells is on hormones. It's casually mentioned and it's really cute. His dad is like worried about his tee shots and things and like helps him get them done. And it's just like a really cute like father-son moment. So I really like that. I wasn't a huge fan of the romantic relationship / side plot. I didn't like it. It just felt so like cheesy and like unnatural, if that makes sense. In the first book, this relationship is introduced and you're like, oh my God, it's so cute from the sidelines, but being in it just didn't feel right to me. That could be a me thing because I don't think I really like friends to lovers and that's what it is, but it could just be like a book thing. The writing wasn't that well done. Overall, the writing wasn't that well done. I don't know, maybe this book felt more rushed is what happened. I don't know, but I just wasn't a huge fan. I do want to see how this series ends, and these are quick reads, so I will probably be reading the third book and the fourth book. I think this is a quartet, and the fourth book's not out yet, so I will try and get that read at some point. But yeah, this was disappointing for sure. The second to last book that I finished in October was Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This is the third book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, so I can't really tell you much about it. The first book follows Karou, who has natural blue hair that grows out of her head, and some other stuff that I really can't remember the synopsis of the first book. Please don't make me look it up. This series is so old, okay? So you probably heard of it. And at this point, I don't really think I recommend it that much. So I gave this book 3.5 stars, but on Goodreads, I rounded it down to a 3. And now that I'm further removed, I can barely remember anything that's happened in the series, and nothing about the series like really affected me all that much. So it might be a 3-star. I don't know. The book was fine. It was a fine ending. It didn't end how I thought it would end. And that's kind of it. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I didn't write a full Goodreads review because I seem to hate myself and my ability to do wrap-ups. And yeah, from what I remember, it was fine. I wasn't super engaged. It was really long. It felt really long. The book could have probably been cut in half and still given us all the answers we wanted. And yeah, so that's kind of it. I finished the series. I'm glad I did. And the last book that I read, The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson. This is the second book in the Truly Devious series. The third book comes out next year, and I am fiending for it, okay? This book was really good. The series so far has been really good. I'm so excited for it. The mystery is so good. Okay, I didn't tell you what it's about. So the first book, and I guess the whole series, is told in a dual timeline. In the 1930s, someone named Albert Ellingham was super rich, and he decided that he wanted to make a school to help like extraordinary children, or teenagers, I guess, because it's like the last 2 years of high school. And so since he's very rich, he rents this he buys this land in Vermont, builds a school on it, and he gets kids who are like super smart, have something about them that makes them qualified for the school, I guess. I'll talk more about it in the present day timeline. Sometime right after the school opens, his wife and his daughter get kidnapped, and they end up never being found. It becomes one of the greatest mysteries of the world, or in American history, to try and figure out who took his wife and kid. And the person that they end up like arresting for it and hanging for it, that nobody believes that it was him, so people are still unsure. In the present day timeline, we follow Stevie Bell, who is accepted into the school because she is a mystery solver. She dreams of becoming an FBI agent, and when she gets to the school, she wants to make it her mission to solve the Truly Devious mystery. And it's called the Truly Devious mystery because Albert Ellingham had received a letter that was basically a threatening letter that was signed from Truly Devious, and so it seems that the person who sent the letter is also the person who kidnapped his wife and child. And Stevie is trying to solve that mystery, and then a whole bunch of other things happen in the present day timeline that make it really interesting and fun. And the first book, I didn't really like the romance that Stevie was involved in. That was my only con of the book. And in this book, that still remains to be the only con of the book series. I just don't like the romance. I did not like the love interest. In this book, he's even worse in my opinion, and all of his actions don't make sense, and I'm sure it'll be explained in the third book. I'm hoping it'll be explained in the third book. But for now, I just didn't like that part, but every other part of the story, specifically the mystery, is so good. Like, I loved learning more. I could not stop reading. In each timeline, I wanted to know more and more what the heck was going on. Why did this happen? And I think Maureen Johnson has a gift for that, because it's been so long since I've been so engaged in a series like that. So I'm really, really excited to read the third book. And so those are all the books that I read in October. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any opinions about any of the books that I mentioned in this video, please be sure to leave a comment down below. And also, I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the video, but my channel survey is linked down below. It is just a survey where you answer questions about my channel. It is what it sounds like, and I would really, really appreciate if you click that link and answered as many of the questions as possible. All of the answers are anonymous. I will not know it's you. I will not come hunt you down if you tell me something negative about my channel. I will appreciate it so much. I always appreciate constructive criticism, and there's no way for me to get better if nobody tells me that I'm doing something wrong, you know? So I'd really appreciate it if you did that. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you haven't done that already. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!